One of the most challenging areas CPA exam candidates face when taking the CPA exam are task-based simulations. In today's video, I'm going to give you my best tips and tricks to master an important type of task-based simulations you will get on the CPA exam, which is the journal entry simulations. So, keep watching. Hey future CPAs, this is Ala Abudaya. I'm a licensed CPA in the state of Colorado and I help students pass the CPA exam and become CPAs. If this is your first time here and you're interested in becoming CPAs, start by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell in order not to miss any of my videos. Task-based simulations form 50% of the CPA exam score, which means that you must do well in these questions to pass the CPA exam. There are actually 5 types of task-based simulations you will see on the CPA exam. The number entry simulations, the journal entry simulations, the choice list simulations, the document review simulations, and the research simulations. I will be covering each type of these simulations and how to master each in separate videos. So, stay tuned. Comment below and tell me if you find task-based simulations to be challenging and more difficult than multiple choice questions. For the business environment and concepts section of the CPA exam, there are 3 written communication tasks. To learn my best tips and tricks to master the written communication section of the CPA exam, make sure to watch this video which I explained how to master written communications on the CPA exam. In today's video, I will specifically explain about the journal entry simulations and how to master these types of simulations. I will also give you a real example of a journal entry simulation from the AICPA sample tests at the end of this video to show you how these simulations look like and how to master these types of questions. So make sure to stay watching till the end of the video. So what are journal entry simulations? Journal entry simulations require you to prepare 1 or more journal entries. You'll be given a scenario and be asked to determine whether a journal entry is needed or not. If one is needed, you must make it. To complete journal entry simulations, you'll select an account from the account column and enter the corresponding amount in the appropriate column as a debit or a credit. This simulation type can appear on the FAR and the audit sections of the CPA exam. That's why I always recommend candidates to take the FAR first before the audit, because you will be asked to do journal entries which you will study in the FAR part of the exam. To learn why I recommend taking FAR in the first section, watch this video which I gave strong reasons why to take FAR first. Also, to learn more details about the 4 parts of the CPA exam and the structure of the CPA exam, make sure to watch these videos which I explained about these 2 topics. For me personally, I loved solving journal entries and found it to be one of my favorite questions. Comment below and tell me if you like making journal entries as well. And to learn how to apply for the CPA exam, make sure to grab your free CPA exam cheat sheet from the description below. So, how to master journal entry simulations? As I mentioned, journal entry simulations give you journal entry account options and numbers, so they combine choice lists with numeric entries. In these simulations, you will be provided with a scenario and asked to make 1 or more journal entries. You will select the account type in the option list column and enter the amount in the amount columns. Here are 10 tips to help you master the journal entry simulations. Tip number 1. Budget your time so you can finish all task-based simulations before time expires. I recommend allocating from 15 to 20 minutes to complete the journal entry simulations. And that's because you want to leave some time for longer and more complicated simulations like the document review ones, which need more time. Track your progress to ensure that you will have enough time to complete all the tasks in the journal entry simulation. Tip number 2. Allocate the first 1 to 2 minutes to preview the task-based simulations by clicking through the numbers under the toolbar at the top of the screen. This will give you an overview about the complexity of the question and how much time you can allocate for it. Tip number 3. Read the instructions carefully in the data provided on the Work tab and review all of the exhibits associated with the task-based simulation before you answer the simulation. Tip number 4. Use the calculator and spreadsheet and split screen technology when answering these simulations. And remember to apply what you learned. If you understand the concepts, you should do well in these simulations. To learn my best tips and tricks to pass the 4 parts of the CPA exam, make sure to watch these 4 videos which I give you my best tips and tricks to pass the FAR part of the exam, the audit part of the exam, the RIG part of the exam, and the BEC part of the exam. Tip number 5. Consider all possible answer choices and use the process of elimination to remove the incorrect choices. This will leave you with the best one. Be sure to enter your numeric entries in the appropriate column, debit or credit. So, for example, expenses should be usually in the debit side unless it's a reversal entry. Revenues, on the other hand, should always be on the credit side unless also it's a reversal entry. So, make sure to pay attention where you put your numbers in the debit or credit in order not to lose points. Because the test makers want to test your knowledge of the journal entries and whether you know where each account and related number go in the debit or credit. Tip number 6. Start with what you know first. For a given journal entry, it doesn't matter what order you do the account and amounts in. You'll be graded on the amounts matching to the correct account and on whether all the accounts and amounts are presented and are correct as debits and credits, and not the order of the journal entries you insert. So you can start with the easiest entries first, the ones you know and can give you points, and then do the harder ones after that, regardless of their order. So you don't have to start with the first ones first. Tip number 7. Remember, not all cells need to be filled for these simulations. Each different question within this type of task-based simulation will have its own response cells, always with different answer choices. Each entry will also have a no entry required checkbox in the upper left corner. If no entry is required for a specific question, click the box and the cells will turn into gray. Tip number 8. If you don't have any idea about the answer for a specific question, make an educated guess and move on. There is no cost for incorrect answers, so do not move on without at least selecting your best guess. This can give you a point if your guess was correct, but you will not lose anything if it was incorrect. To learn my best tips and tricks to maximize your CPA exam score and study smarter for the CPA exam, make sure to watch these 2 videos which I explained about these 2 topics. Tip number 9. Before you move on to the next simulation, make sure you have selected an answer for all of the questions. Do not leave anything blank. This also applies for multiple choice questions as well. To learn how to tackle multiple choice questions for the CPA exam, make sure to watch these 2 videos which I gave my great tips for multiple choice questions. Tip number 10. Become familiar with the layout of the task-based simulations by practicing these types of questions from the AICPA sample tests, which give you real task-based simulations and real exam screens. So it will help you get familiar with how these questions look like. These tests are found on the AICPA website. Just go to www.aicpa.org, search for sample tests, and you will find them. Most importantly, stay calm and be confident and focused while answering these questions. And remember to keep your eyes on that clock. In my opinion, if you understand the concepts and are doing good in multiple choice questions, you must do good also in task-based simulations, because these questions are simply giant multiple choice questions. Task-based simulations are basically training your brain to work on a problem in a different perspective. Okay guys, so here's an example of a journal entry task-based simulation, and as you see, it requires us to record a journal entry, and not one, two journal entries actually. It's requiring us to record here. So as you can see, this is an example from the AICPA.org website. So it's a real simulation from the real exam, and it shows the real exam screens. So here we have financial accounting and reporting. We are here in test lot number 5 because it's highlighted. And as you can see, we have here the time. So here we have the clock, which will be counting down during the exam. You must keep your eye always on the clock and have a proper time management strategy and know when you must leave each testlet and stay on each testlet, how much like each testlet should take time from you. And then you have here a calculator, which you're going to use during the exam. And here's the Excel also. It's going to be a desktop Excel. And here's the authoritative literature, which you are going to use for your research also, but it's going to also exist in all the other simulations during the exam. Here's also an overview, which shows like a summary of all the questions in the same testlet, and the help button. Now here we have the arrows, which you can like move forward and backward in the same testlet. So you can see what's the next question and what's the question before in the same testlet. But as you all know, guys, we can't go back to the testlet we left, to the testlet we completed. We can't go back to it. And once you submit this testlet, you cannot go back to it again. And you cannot also see the next testlet. You cannot see the questions in the next testlet. You have here also the flag button, where you can flag any question you are not sure about to go back to it. Now here, always the first thing I always recommend you guys to do once you reach the task-based simulations, scan the testlet quickly, see the questions in the testlet. So here, for example, the first question is a journal entry simulation, and the second question also is a journal entry simulation. So both of them are journal entry simulations. So once you scan the questions in the testlet and see maybe the topic they're talking about or something, I recommend you start with the easy simulations, the ones that you are more familiar with, the topics that you are better in order to get points, because our goal is to get as much points as we can. And if there is any research question, leave it till the end. Okay? Now here, let's begin reading this question and see. Of course, here you have the exhibits, that you should always review the exhibits and know what they are providing us. In this question, they did not give us any exhibits because it's a journal entry simulation, and you just have to read the question carefully and answer it carefully. So let's read the question together and see what they are asking about. On January 1, year 1, Lux Company purchased equipment for $90,000. In addition to the purchase price, Lex paid $6,000 in sales tax, $1,600 in shipment costs, $3,000 in personal training costs, and $2,400 in installation costs. So they're here giving us some information about an equipment that was purchased and the related costs to this equipment. The equipment has an estimated salvage value of $10,000 and a total estimated useful life of 10 years. Lex uses the straight line method of depreciation and records depreciation expense annually. So it's a question about depreciation. On January 1, year 2, the estimated useful life was revised to a total of 5 years from the date of purchase, and the estimated salvage value was reduced to $5,000. The change in estimated useful life was a result of increased production. The equipment was sold for $55,000 on July 1, year 3. For the situations below, record the appropriate journal entry. So here they want us to record a journal entry for some depreciation situations. Now we're gonna see exactly what they want us to record. So you should read the question always carefully, understand what they want carefully. Sometimes you're gonna need to read it more than once to understand it. And I also recommend sometimes like a good idea to read the question first. So here you can, for example, read this question first here. Prepare the journal entry to record the depreciation expense for year 2. So here what they want is the journal entry for the depreciation expense for year 2. So you must read the instruction carefully, understand exactly what they want in order to answer the question correctly. Now, as you see here in the instructions, also you should read the instructions very careful. They're telling us here to prepare journal entry. To prepare each required journal entry, click on a cell in the account name column and select the appropriate account. An account may be used once or not at all for a journal entry. So here's the journal entries. You're gonna click here on the account name column. Here's the account name column. You're gonna click here on this cell here, and here you're gonna find that there are options. So here it's an option list. It's a choice list simulation in addition to a free numeric entry simulation. So here you're gonna have to put the numbers in the debits or the credits. The account name is a choice list, so you're gonna choose from the choices for the account name. And when you put the amounts in the debits and credits, you're gonna put 3 numeric entry simulations. The 3 numbers, you're gonna put the numbers you come up with based on your calculations. So basically, this journal entry is combining a choice list simulation with a number entry simulation. So here it's saying that an account may be used once or not at all for a journal entry. So you must pay attention to this instruction here. They're telling you that once you click here in the cell, you're gonna find a list of accounts options that you choose from, and the account may select it once only or not at all. So you're not gonna have to select all the accounts. There will be absolutely accounts that will not be selected. Okay. And the account may be selected once or not at all. So that you must keep this in your mind. Bullet number 2 here, they're telling us enter the corresponding debit or credit amount in the associated column. So here in those columns, you're going to put debit or credit. All amounts will be automatically rounded to the nearest dollar. So here, if you put decimals, all the amounts will be rounded automatically. All amounts, not all rows in the table might be needed to complete each journal entry. So here we have maybe like 7 or 6 rows. You're not going to need all those rows to complete the journal entry. Maybe you're going to need 3 or 4 or 2. It depends on the journal entry you're recording. Okay. This bullet here, number 5, they're telling us if no journal entry is needed, check the no entry required box at the top of the table as your response. So here, if there's no entry, never leave it blank. Don't leave it blank. If you leave it blank, you're going to lose a point. If there is no entry required, you must check this cell here. Put a check, and this is going to be no entry here, okay? And if you, for example, selected an account, for example, maybe you did an entry or something and you put some numbers maybe here, okay? And then you discovered that no, it should be no entry. What you should do only is, you don't have to delete all the information you inserted here. You just go here and click here on no entry and just put confirm, and all the data here will go by itself and it will be like no entry. It will be ready. Okay, this will save you time instead of deleting everything and going one to one. Okay, and here, as I said, once you put any number, for example, $5,000, for example, 0.5 is going to be rounded and it's going to be formatted. So the comma will be inserted and it will be automatically formatted. Just put the number and put accept, for example, and it will be, as you notice, there's a comma and it will be rounded automatically. Okay. And if you want to delete the amount, just put reset, confirm, and it will be 0 here. Okay. So basically what they want from us here in this journal entry, the first journal entry they want is to prepare the journal entry to record the depreciation expense for year 2. So you must pay attention to the instructions and what the question wants. It wants the depreciation for year 2. So in order to compute the depreciation, we want the cost of the equipment. We want to find the salvage value, which already is given in the question. And it's a straight line method. So the straight line depreciation equals the cost minus salvage value divided by the useful life of the equipment, as we all know from the FAR exam, right? Which is, it's not hard, by the way. So in order to compute the cost of the equipment, here they are telling us that they purchased the equipment for $90,000. In addition to the purchase price, there is $6,000 in sales tax, $1,600 in shipping costs, $3,000 in personal training costs, $2,400 in installation costs. Now, are all those now we should determine here and know which of these costs should go into the cost of the equipment, right? So the initial cost is the initial price is $90,000 of the equipment, which is computed. It's part of the cost of the equipment, and we should add to the $90,000 the sales tax of $6,000 because it's part of the cost of the equipment. In addition, the shipping costs should be also included in the cost of the equipment, so we should add also $1,600. Now the personal training costs, they don't go in they are not included in the cost of the equipment, so we don't add them in the cost of the equipment. So this $3,000 will not be added in our cost. And $2,400 in installation costs are also added in the cost of our equipment. So the total cost of our equipment is $90,000 plus $6,000 sales tax plus $1,600 shipping costs plus $2,400 in installation costs, which will give us a total cost of $100,000. So the first thing, we computed the total cost of the equipment, which is $100,000. Now, we should subtract from it the salvage value, okay? 100,000 minus 10,000 of salvage value will give us 90,000 of depreciable value, okay? So 90,000, it will be the value that will be subject to depreciation. Divided by 10 years, so it's going to be $9,000 for the first year, okay? So for year one, the total depreciation is $9,000. Now, the question here is not asking about the first year depreciation. The question wants the journal entry to record the depreciation for year two. So in order to record the depreciation in year two, we need to compute the depreciation for year two. And as mentioned in the question, which is very important, they say that in January 1, year 2, the estimated useful life was revised to a total of 5 years. So it was decreased from 10 years to 5 years. And that was on January 1, year 2. But pay attention that they are saying here from the date of purchase. So it was supposed to be 5 years from the date we purchased the equipment. Okay, from year one, it was supposed to be 5 years, but initially they determined that it was 10 years, and then on January 1, year 2, they discovered that it was supposed to be 5 years, so they determined that it is 5 years. Okay, now this 5 years, as we said, is supposed to start from the date of purchase. Okay, so we have the useful life was changed from 10 years to 5 years, and the estimated salvage value was reduced to $5,000. So the estimated salvage value was reduced from $10,000 to $5,000. So here we're required to record the journal entry for the depreciation for year two. Now, as we said, the depreciation for year one was $9,000 based on the provided data for year one. And for year two, what we should do is we're going to take now the book value of the equipment, which is 100,000 minus 9,000, so it's $91,000 as of the beginning of year two. This book value, we're going to subtract from it the salvage value of $5,000, and then we're going to divide it by 4 years, which is the useful life, the remaining useful life of the equipment, because we have now here 5 years starting from year one. So by year two, there's only 4 years left for the equipment, which will give us a total depreciation of $21,500. Click here on this cell, and then you're going to select the account. So what's going to be the debit side? Depreciation expense. So we're going to here select depreciation expense, and then put accept. And the credit side here is going to, the same thing, you're going to click here on the cell and put accumulated depreciation. So debit, depreciation expense, credit, accumulated depreciation, And here you're gonna enter the amounts. You're gonna here just select the cell and put the debit 21,500, put accept, and as you see the cell automatically the number is formatted, and the credit is also here 21,500. Make sure to record the numbers correctly and pay attention to the debit and credit. Make sure that you don't put anything wrong, okay, because any mistake you will lose points if you put. The next question here, prepare the journal entry to record the year 3 sale and any necessary adjustments. Okay, so here they want us to record the journal entry for year 3 sale and any adjustments. And here, as we see in the question, it says the equipment was sold for $55,000 on July 1, year 3. For the situations below, record the appropriate journal entry. So it's telling us that on July 1, year 3, so on the middle of year 3, on July 1, the equipment was sold for a price of $55,000. And here we should record the related entry and any related transactions. Now, the first thing we should do in order to record this entry is to determine the loss or gain from the selling of this equipment, right? So, and in order to do this, we should determine the book value of the equipment in order to determine the amount of loss or gain from the sale, because the loss or gain equals the price minus the book value, okay? And in order to determine the book value of the equipment, we must determine the depreciation expense for the total depreciation expense for the equipment. We already computed the depreciation expense for year 1, which was $9,000, and the depreciation expense for year 2 in the previous entry, which was $21,500. And we just have here to compute the depreciation expense for the first 6 months of year 3 only, because the equipment was sold on July 1, year 3. So we need the depreciation for the period from January 1 till June 30 of year 3, which is the first 6 months of year 3, right? So in order to compute the depreciation expense for these 6 months, there are 2 ways. The first way is, which is the fastest way, is because it's a straight line method and the depreciation every year is the same. So we can just take the same depreciation expense of year 2, which was $21,500, and times 6 months divided by 12 months, or times 1/2, half a year, or 6 divided by 12. It's gonna give us the same thing, a half. Okay, so this is the first fast method you can use for the ones. This is a quick method you can use to compute the depreciation for those 6 months, which will give us 10,750. The second method you can do is just to compute the depreciation again, like the cost, which is 100,000 minus 9,000, the depreciation for year 1, and then we're gonna go deduct the salvage value of 5,000 divided by the remaining life of, as we said, 4 years, which will give us 21,500. And then we're gonna time that times 6 months divided by 12 months, because we want it for 6 months only, which will give us a depreciation expense of 10,750. So the depreciation expense for the first 6 months of year 3 is 10,750. Now, we want to compute the book value of this equipment. So the equipment is $100,000. Its cost is $100,000 minus the $9,000, the depreciation for year 1, minus the depreciation for year 2, which was $21,500, minus the depreciation for those 6 months of year 3, which will give us a book value of $58,750 as of July 1, year 3. So the book value of the equipment when we sold the equipment, it was $58,750. Okay. Now we're gonna, in order to compute the gain or loss, we're going to deduct the price from the book value. So we sold it for $55,000 and the book value is $58,750. 55 minus 58,750 is gonna give us $3,750, which is a loss in the amount of $3,750. Why? Because we sold it in an amount which is less than its book value. Okay? So so what we determined here is that we have a loss in the amount of $3,750. We have cash coming in the amount of $55,000. And in order to do the entry here for this transaction, we're going to reverse the cost. So the cost is usually in the debit. We're gonna put it in the credit to reverse it. And the accumulated depreciation, we're gonna put it in the debit. We're gonna reverse it and put it in the debit to close it. And we're gonna record the cash and the loss, and also the depreciation expense for the first 6 months of year 3, which was not recorded before. So we should record the depreciation expense for these 6 months, okay? So the entry is going to be here, debit. So here we're gonna select from the choices here, the account we need. The first thing is the depreciation expense we're gonna record, okay? Just select the account and put accept. And then put the numbers here. Be careful to put the numbers correctly, okay? So the depreciation expense for year 3, for the 6 months of year 3, for year 3 was $10,750, okay? And then the second account is going to be the accumulated depreciation. We select here accumulated depreciation and put accept. We're going to reverse the whole accumulated depreciation for year 1 and 2, which was 9,000 plus 21,500, so 30,500. And then we're gonna also here put the cash. Okay, so select cash, debit cash. So it's gonna be depreciation expense, debit accumulated depreciation, and then debit cash in the amount of the price we sold it. So we sold it in $55,000. So we got cash in $55,000. And then we're gonna put the loss. Don't forget the loss, which is in the debit side because it's an expense. It's like a loss. So you're gonna select loss. Here's loss on disposal of equipment. Again, be careful when you select the choices. Try to use the elimination also if you are stuck, if you don't know the answer, if it's new or something. Try to use the elimination process, exclude the things that you don't think are correct, and try to keep the best answers that you think are more close to the correct answers if you are stuck. So here we're going to select loss on equipment and put accept. The amount of loss, as we said, is going to be 3,750. And then just put accept. And as you see, the numbers are automatically formatted here in the cells. And the credit side is going to be the cost of the equipment. So we're going to put here, we're going to select the equipment. Okay, the equipment here, accept. And in the credit here, we're going to put $100,000. Accept. And as you all know, guys, always the total debits should equal the total credits. So it's a way for you to make sure that you are recording the entry correct, you do not miss anything, is to compute the total debit sides, and it should equal $100,000, which is the total credit sides. Okay, so this is basically the solution for this question. And most importantly, as I said, apply what you learned. Keep your eye always on the clock. Like a question like this, I think it's like from 15 to 20 minutes, I think is enough to solve a question like that. And be confident, be calm, don't stress. As you see here, depreciation is one of the most important topics that you should study, because expect to receive a task post simulation on depreciation topics. I received a lot of those when I took the exam, and expect to receive those too when you take the exam. So these are my best tips to tackle the journal entry simulations. Comment below and tell me if you are going to implement these tips during the CPA exam. And make sure to get your free CPA exam application cheat sheet from the description below. Remember, go after what you want. Pass the CPA exam, because you can become CPAs and save the world.